voice in the distance, the lamb that was slain. My soul had no song that night that I could obey. When I needed a hero, he came and you saved.
So, like I said, we've been going through the Old Testament, and we're going to be looking at Judges 4. On your bulletin it says 1 through 10. We're just going to read the whole story because this is just another great story of the Bible. Like last week, Mark Turk did an awesome job talking about the story of Ehud, and that was awesome. We're going to kind of keep with that theme that Ehud was an unlikely servant of God, and he talked about how God is in the business of using unlikely, ordinary people. And we're going to kind of keep with that theme of the unlikely servants of God as we move into this new story in Judges 4. This is the story, it's highlighted as the story of Deborah, but it's so much more in there, and Deborah's an awesome woman. Raise your hand if you heard the story of Deborah before, if you're familiar with that. Okay? I wasn't, so this was fun for me to get. I wasn't really, of course I heard of Deborah, but I wasn't really familiar. This was fun to get into, and this is a great story. We're going to read the whole chapter, and I want you to approach it kind of like a movie. All right? And with a movie, go see the trailer. It looks good. Go check it out, and then you talk about it with your friends. So I'm going to give you a brief little trailer. We're going to look through the whole story, talk about it as we go along, and then dialogue about it a little bit afterwards, all right? And so I need you guys to understand that most of the stories in the Bible, some of you may not see rated R movies. Some of you may not see PG-13 movies. Those are great boundaries to have. I respect that. But I need you to understand that if a movie was to be done about a lot of the stories in the Bible, they would be rated R. Okay? This one of them stories. Okay? And so imagine a trailer that involves a battle, a community that has fallen away from the Lord, a courageous and wise woman, betrayal, murder. Imagine we're watching a trailer and it's got the guy with the cool voice, you know. And there's 3 points that I want us to kind of be looking for as we go into the story, and we'll talk about it more afterwards. But it would be that this is a story of God's compassion, be a story of God's calling, and it would be a story of courage. God's given courage. Okay? And so as we go into this story, coming off of the story Ehud from last week that we talked about, God took his people into like 80 years of peace, it says. Now I think that sounds great because I'm always looking for comfort and peace. And I realize my wife and I, we have aspirations and dreams that revolve around being comfortable. And what we've realized is, you know what, God might not bless us with some of those dreams, because that would just bring us to too comfortable a place, and we might not be useful for him. So what happens is the Israelites went 80 years of comfort, and then they started to do evil in the eyes of the Lord. And this is the cycle we see through Judges, where the Israelites do evil in the eyes of the Lord, they cry out to him, he raises up a deliverer, the judge, and gets them out of trouble, and then they go back and turn away from him, and the cycle continues. So they've now done evil in the eyes of the Lord. That's what we're picking up now in Judges 4. So if you can put the page number up there, AJ. I let it slide last time. 241, Judges 4. Oh, I also want to challenge you, while you're turning there to Judges 4, I want to challenge you too. I was talking with Geraldine after first service, and she goes through these scriptures, and she was telling me some of the things she learned about this story as she was studying. I want to challenge you guys. You guys know what we're reading as a church. Just challenge you to be reading through Judges. That's what we're studying. Let's be united in that. And if you guys have questions or insight from your studying, email us, text us, let us know, give us a call and let us know your thoughts, and let's go through this together. Rather, like me, I just come and wait and see what's the next piece. We can be ahead of the game a little bit. Amen. So, Judges 4 says, again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, now that Ehud was dead. So the Lord sold them into the hands of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. Sisera, we're not going to hear a lot about Jabin. We're going to hear more about this guy Sisera coming up. Sisera, the commander of his army, was based in Harosheth Haggayim. Now that place just means that it was close to where the Israelites lived. So there was a greater influence on the Israelites because of where the Canaanites were located geographically, okay? So verse 3, talking about Sisera still. Because he had 900 chariots fitted with iron and had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years, they cried to the Lord for help. We'll stop right there for just a second. This guy Sisera had 900 chariots fitted with armor. I mean, he had heavy artillery. These are the nukes. He's got serious weapons of warfare here. He's got the power. He's a powerful dude. It says that he was cruelly oppressing and ruling over the Israelites. And this type of language, this type of oppression hasn't really happened to this degree since Pharaoh in Egypt. This is major enslavement, major oppression, and that's how the Israelites are being ruled over. And it took them 20 years before they finally cried out to the Lord. And I don't know about you, but I don't have to stub my toe 20 times before I cry out to the Lord, let alone 20 years of oppression. And what I want to see is I'm sure they could have cried out to the Lord before that. These are God's people who he loves. God has great compassion on his people. And so if God's people are going to cry out to him, it's not like God was sitting there waiting no, a couple more years. I want you to be oppressed. I want this harsh ruler to rule over you for a couple more years. 20, okay, now you cry out to me? Okay, I'll show up. No, God, imagine, he does not desire for his people to be in this type of situation. So as soon as they cry out to him, God's going to show up because God has great compassion. So we start to see, okay, now we see God's compassion in this story. God's people cry out to him. He's going to do something. He has so much passion for his people and cares for his people. They cry out to him. He's going to do something. Well, let's see what he does. Let's see how he raises up a judge. Let's see what happens. Verse 4. Now Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth. You guys are going to have to bear with me through some of these names. I thought I did a good job with Harosheth Haggayim. All right. Now Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth, was leading Israel at that time. So already we see a picture of the state of male leadership in Israel. There's a woman leading Israel, and rightfully so. She's a wise woman. Learning a little bit about Deborah, I had a commentator, a theologian that I respect and knows a lot more than I do. But I was reading some commentary. He said, because we've talked about how judges, all the judges are not just people who judge the matters and affairs, like judiciary assignment. They also have a military role as a judge over Israel. And this guy that I was reading from said that all of the judges have a military responsibility except for Deborah. Now, if you know this story, I don't know if I'm not too sure if that's accurate. We'll see. But Deborah, says verse 5, well, she's leading Israel, and then verse 5 says, she held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites went up to her to have their disputes decided. So she sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River, and give him into your hands. Now, let's stop right there again. So again, this woman who is why she's a great leader to Israel. She should be in place. She's a wise woman. People respect her. People come to her for wisdom. Honestly, the judges remind me a lot of PC, Pastor Chris. He's a wise dude that I'll go for instruction and wisdom. But also, if I'm going to war, if I'm going to battle, he's going with me. All right? But God says, my desire is to raise up a man within Israel to lead my people. So Deborah, this woman who's revered, God says, no, I'm not calling you. I want you to go and command Barak, this guy Barak, to come and lead the people. Let's see how he responds. Let's put male leadership into a little bit more perspective. The male leadership of Israel during this time. Barak in verse 8 says, Barak said to her, if you go with me, I'll go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. I ain't going. Arcellus, we didn't talk about this before, man, but I just need, because I know the man that you are. Let's say you're in the bedroom, Mish comes in. Arcellus, there's a spider in the bathroom. There's a spider. And she says, I was going to kill it, but God told me to come get you. Right? No, Mish, I know. You got the spiders covered. But this time God said, go get your man. Okay? Arcellus, you going to turn to Mish and say, I'll go in there if you go with me. You going to make your lady go with you? I know. Hey, but you got no problem taking care of the spider. All right? You got no problem taking care of the spider. I feel you. So, but now I know some of you guys are thinking, that's a stupid analogy. Like, we're talking 900 chariots fitted with armor and a spider. No, I think that's pretty accurate because I don't like spiders. That's pretty, 900 chariots, spider. Good analogy, Doc. Okay, cool. So let's keep it pushing. Am I right? Anybody else don't like spiders? But the point is, this dude, and I don't know if I think he was trying to get out of it because I don't think he must have thought, Deborah, I ain't going to war. Women don't go to war. Women stay at the camp and take care of the kids and feed the kids and put up the tents. That's what women do. She said, well, I'll go if you go. She ain't going. What does Deborah say? Next verse. Certainly. I'll go with you, but Deborah ain't a warrior. I'll go if you go. Let's do it, huh? But Deborah ain't a warrior. She's not a warrior? Certainly, I'll go with you, said Deborah. But, she's about to prophesy. But because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh. There, Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went with him, but she's not a warrior. She also prophesied, and she said, hey, okay, here's how it's going to go. I'm going to go with you, but the glory is not going to fall in your hands. God was calling you. God's got compassion for his people. They called out to him. He said, I'm going to do something. So God wants to raise people up, call people into place. Come be a part of what I'm doing. This is special. This is important. This is big. This is important to me. I'm calling you to be a part of my purpose and my plan. But Barak puts a condition on it. He says, oh yeah, I'll go if. When God calls, we are not to put conditions on his calling. When he calls, we are not to cower and hesitate. And now Deb says, hey, I'll go with you. And God was calling you and raising you up, but you're not going to get the glory for this one. How we respond to God's calling is very, very important. Now we got this, so Deborah goes with him. She's a warrior. She's going with him. She's leading Israel, trying to call the men into a leadership role too. And then now, you know how when you watch a movie and there's kind of like a parallel cut to another scene and you're like, what does that have to do with anything? How does that fit in? That's going to come back into play. So that's kind of what happens here in verse 11. It says, now Heber the Kenite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree in Zin near Kadesh. What? Look, y'all aren't up here reading this stuff in front of 100 people, okay?
It's all good.
That was good, and there's a great tree there. It's near Kadesh. And great tree in Zinanim. I thought I did a good job with Harosheth Hagoyim, okay? So, like I said, bear with me. Anyway, so that's a little side note. It's like, okay, something's going to come back up. What's the deal with Heber the Kenite, and that they pitched some tents over here? What's the deal with that? Okay, we'll just take note of that. That'll come back into play later. Where are we at? Barak and Deborah, they're going after to raise up the troops and pursue the Canaanite army. Verse 12 says, when they told Sisera that Barak, son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera summoned from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Kishon River all his men and his 900 chariots fitted with iron. So it's going down. Barak and Deborah gather the troops. Sisera's like, all right, let's do this. I'm going to get my chariots. We're going to go ahead and go to war. So then in verse 14, then Deborah said to Barak, go. This is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you? So Barak went to Mount Tabor, Barak went down Mount Tabor with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera. Take note of that for next week. The Lord routed Sisera and all his chariots and army by the sword. And Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. But Barak pursued the chariots. Are you guys with me? You guys just finally, this is just a good story, man. This is like major turning point in the movie, man. The battle is coming. It's getting excited. The music is playing. And verse 16 says, Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and all Sisera's troops fell by the sword. Not a man was left. Did you guys get that? Not a man was left. Not a man was left. Verse 17. Sisera, meanwhile, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite. Oh, remember we cut to that other scene, verse 11? It's like, who's Heber and the Kenite? What's this other camp all about? I imagine that scene kind of looks like them setting up shop, putting up the tents, nailing the pegs into the ground, setting up a new camp in a separate place. So Sisera fled to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there was an alliance between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the family of Heber the Kenite. Now Sisera knew that, man, nobody's going up into the tent of another woman unless it's a husband or the father. You don't just go up into a tent of somebody else. He's like, I'll be safe in here. So Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, come, my lord, come right in. Don't be afraid. So he entered her tent, and she covered him with a blanket. So Jael is outside of her tent, sees Sisera coming. Now this is this powerful ruler. This is like Hitler fleeing to her tent like this. And she says, oh, come on in. Come on in. Let me give you a blanket. What's going on? Well, I just ran from this battle. My 900 chariots got ran through, and I fled on foot. Let me just, oh, come on in. Come on in. You must be tired. Here's a blanket. Verse 19, Sisera says, I'm thirsty, he said. Give me some water. So she opened up a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him up. Oh, you're thirsty? Oh, here, have some milk. Why don't you lay down? Here's a blanket for you. And so she calms him down. Don't worry, Sisera. This has been a crazy battle for you. Just hide out here. Lay down. Here's some milk. Here's a blankie. Take a nap. You need anything else? What else can I get for you? And he's starting to get comfortable. And he says, oh, one thing, verse 20. Stand in the doorway of the tent, he told her. If someone comes by and asks you, is anyone in there? Just say no. Man, the Bible, Pastor used to say, man, isn't the Bible fun? Check this out. Literally translated, this verse, like what this verse really said, like the original language and stuff, says, if any man comes looking for any man and asks you, have you seen him? Say no. Did you miss it? Did you see that? Let's go back to verse 16. What did it say? End of verse 16. Barak pursued the chariots, army as far as blah, blah, blah. Troops fell at the sword. Not a man was left. And so he's laying there, nice and comfy. Oh, do one more favor for me. If any man comes looking for a man, even though there's no man left, and they ask, hey, is there a man in your tent? You tell him no. And Jael's like, no problem. There ain't no man here. And if she's looking for a man pursuing this guy, she's like, all I see is a boy. She's going to have a hard time finding a man pursuing him, because who's pursuing him? Deborah, who's a woman, and Barak. We used to say in college, challenge each other. Say, you ain't no man, no. You did something powerful when we were in college, but you ain't no man. So she's told to look for Barak, who's not a man. Tell him that there's no man in her tent. No problem, right? So the other thing that we need to see in this, though, is it just Barak pursuing Sisera? No, it's Deborah. But is it just Deborah pursuing Sisera? No. Who's the one having compassion on his people? It's God pursuing this army and this leader, this commander, to take him out, right? And so here's Jael saying, okay, you're a powerful dude. I know you've got 900 chariots fitted with armor. No one gets through you, but you're fleeing to our camp? Something's going on here. And all I know is, whoever's pursuing you, I don't want nothing to do with them. I don't want them coming after me too. So come on in. You comfortable? This is like the climax of the movie right here. The battle's over and now it's getting really tense. What's about to happen? You good? Sisera? You need another blanket? How about a refill on your bottle, baby? You okay? Just go fast asleep. I'm just going to pick up a little bit around the campsite. She sees her. Remember, I told you the women, they put the tent pegs into the ground to set up the tent. I lost my spot. So she's probably talking to him, waiting for him to fall fast asleep. Scandalous, ruthless. Which verse are we in? 21. But Jael, Heber's wife, she picked up a tent peg. She picked up a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the tent peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Man, she's a wise woman. Women weren't allowed to go to war, but they were allowed to take care of the kids. She had some milk. She knew how to comfort him. A little blanket, tent peg. She knew if I sharpen these, they go into the ground a little bit easier. She knew exactly what to do. Lay right there on your side. She drove that tent peg through his temple into the ground and said, you ain't going nowhere. I don't write this stuff. Like, God wrote this. Isn't that awesome? We live in LA. Could somebody put together a script or something like this? I want to see this movie. These are the type of stories like this just preaches itself, man. So she drove it through his temple into the ground. He died. 22, just then Barak came by in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. Come, she said, I'll show you the man you're looking for. So he went in with her and there lay Sisera with the tent peg through his temple, dead. On that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. And the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Jabin, king of Canaan, until they destroyed him. Credits roll, lights come back on. I'm not the type to clap in a movie theater, but that was good. Right? That is a great story. God help us if we didn't go through the Old Testament. This is filled with awesome stories and so much to learn from. I mean, let's talk about it a little bit. God has compassion on his people when they cry out, and you know God is going to do something. And he's going to call people to be raised up and be a part of it. But when that call comes, don't get your spot ran. Don't put him in position to have to raise somebody else up. Barak was hesitant. He cowered. He put conditions on God's call. Yeah, I'll do it if this. Like, what's in it for me? Is there a paycheck? You know? When God's call comes, it's important because he's got great purpose. He's got great compassion for his people, and he's trying to use us to be a part of his plan and to take action. This is important to him. If he puts you in your job, that's important to him. If he puts you in the relationship, that's important to him, how you handle that. That's why he called you there. But we got these issues with the men not being the men they're supposed to be and the women stepping up. And I'm talking about, do you guys know what it means to get your spot ran? Does that, what I'm talking about, I didn't mention this yet, right, about me getting my spot, okay. When I was in college my senior year, this isn't the best illustration, but it helps you get the picture of what it means to get your spot ran. When I was in college my senior year, we had new coaching staff. I was having a hard time, and they brought in their own recruits, so they didn't care about me all the way. But they brought in this young guy as freshman, and they started giving him some playing time. And I'm trying not to get my spot ran because the starting spot, that's my spot. You're not just going to put somebody in there. So I'm trying to put up a fight. But he started getting some playing time, so I was starting to get my spot ran. Okay? So that means if God calls you to something and we hesitate and we're not courageous in that calling, he might raise somebody else to take your spot. Don't let somebody else run your spot when God called you to it. Now, just a little side note, the guy that ran my spot, he plays in the NFL now, so it's like, you know, just putting that out there, like, you know, he was a good player. It's not like I was getting my spot ran by, you know, just nobody, you know. Just throwing that in there. Okay, so, but, like I said, God has great compassion on his people. They cry out to him. He's going to do something. He calls us to be a part of it. How are we going to respond? With courage? God-given courage. Deborah's ready to go. But she wasn't the one called. She's like, I'll go. Because God's going to do the work. She was courageous because she knew the Lord. Now, if you're sitting there worrying about, yeah, okay, God's calling me to do something, but I'm a little worried. What if I get my spot ran? You might be thinking, you might be sitting next to your spouse saying, Doc's talking about getting a spot ran. You hear that? Don't get your spot ran. God called you. He put you in place. You better be the spouse that he says to be. Mess around and get your spot ran. Now, let me tell you, it's funny. Let me tell you something. If that person's sitting there saying, you better watch out before you get your spot ran, that doesn't sound like love, hopes, trusts, perseveres, love never fails. That doesn't sound like the love and respect that God is calling us to give to our spouse. Better watch out you don't get your spot ran. Okay? You got me? So, okay, I don't want to get my spot. Hey, God help me. I do not want to get my spot ran by no other man. But here's my thing. I'm messed up. I was talking with my wife about these scriptures, and I'm like, we were saying, yeah, but I kind of feel Barak. He's a part of this generation that has had no male leadership before. They don't know the Lord. What's going on here? That's why I say it's God-given courage. Because if you've come to our spiritual formation class, and that's on Tuesdays, if you guys ever want to join us, it's really good. I've said that everybody in the church should come. It's good. It's going to be a packed house this week. In our spiritual formation class, we talk a lot about John 15 says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Remain in me, abide in me, because apart from me, you can do nothing. So if God calls and I've got anxiety, I've got fear, I'm frustrated, I'm not sure if I can do this, I'm right, I can't. Because apart from God, I can't do anything. God, give me the courage. God, I see that you have compassion, and I would be crazy to not be alongside you. It would be suicidal for me to not answer your call and for you to be my God and for me to serve you in your mission and your plan. That would be crazy of me. But I don't know if I can do it. I've got fear. I've got anxiety. And God says, just remain in me. Stay here in my community. Abide in me with the body of believers. Stay in the vine. Stay united with me. Because apart from me, you can't do anything. So you got no shot apart from me. But Jesus, do you really understand that the anguish and the turmoil that goes in my heart when you call me to speak to this person, or you call me to put on love, or you call me to put on respect, or you call me to share the gospel, or you call me to step away from these friends that I've been so attached to? Do you know how hard the struggle is when you call me to do something that's a part of your purpose? Do you know what that's like? We're getting ready to take communion. Go ahead and grab it. Does Jesus know what it's like? He went to this garden, and Jesus said, oh, Father, you have great compassion on your people. So much so that you sent me, and you're calling me to lay down on this cross, to be beaten and betrayed? I don't know about that, Father. I've got some fear in that. I got some anxiety. To the point that he sweat drops of blood. He was so torn. Oh, he gets the struggle. But he said, nevertheless, not my will, your will be done. God, may your Holy Spirit well inside of us when you call to give us the strength, the God-given courage to be a part of your passionate mission to redeem your people. May we answer the call with courage and not hesitate when you call us to be a part of your purpose and plan. Because nevertheless, not what we want, Lord.
I am now 11 years old.
Me and my unit are here today.
Because God,
my
hero,
our
my
hero,
hero,
saved our life.
saved my life.
Whoa. Healer, deliverer, protector, provider.